This is Armed American Radio's Daily Defense.
Armed American Radio's Daily Defense, because they don't want me to, that's why I do it.
Presented by X Insurance. X Insurance. From the SIG Sauer Studios. On the Patriot Mobile Platinum Microphone. Here is your host, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting the enemies of freedom, Mark Walters.
Welcome in. Armed American Radio's Daily Defense begins right now on dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of radio stations across the United States. It's all being brought to you by the great X Insurance, and I am Mark Walters, filling your prescription for freedom today and every day, Monday through Friday, in front of this Patriot Mobile Communication and Command Center microphone. Greg in Dallas, Texas. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Here we are, Friday.
We have a great guest lineup today, and we want to get right to it. So if you would be kind enough to rattle off where people can watch us on social media platforms, participate in the chat, we'll go right to our guests.
Yeah, sure. Briefly, if you want to watch the show, search for Armed American Radio with Mark Walters on Rumble, YouTube, and Fascist Book. If you're looking over on X, it's at AAR Mark. If you'd like to join our live chat, just head on over to your app store, grab the Telegram messaging app, create your profile, and search for Armed American Radio Conversations.
Yeah, welcome in. Let's get started. We have two powerhouses here today, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start with U.S. Representative Eli Crane, Arizona District 2. I don't say former, I say retired Navy SEAL. Eli, my brother, it's so good to talk to you again. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Oh, thanks for being here today. I appreciate it very much. Did you add anything to that We the People ink yet? Because I'm getting ready to add to mine. We'll talk about that sometime off air, but I love that. Eli and I bonded quickly, Greg, because of the same tattoos.
Yeah, no doubt.
Quang, Arizona State Representative, House Judiciary Chairman, joins the conversation as well. Quang, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Great to see my congressman on the show today.
Yeah, we're going to have a good time together. Eli, let me start with you, my friend. We've got you for two segments, so I'm going to move fairly quickly. I have a number of topics to cover with you, but I got to start before we go to guns and everything happening in D.C. What in the world, what gives with the disruption on the House floor the other day? You were there. What are Republicans thinking about that?
Well, yeah, obviously, it was disappointing to see during a speech that was so powerful and so well received around the country. I think I saw the approval ratings at like 76% of all Americans saying that was a great, powerful speech. And you've got Al Green from Texas just standing up, interrupting, yelling and screaming at President Trump, waving his cane around for several minutes. Speaker Johnson, was beating his gavel twice, gave him, told him, hey, you need to sit down, cease and desist. He wouldn't do it. He actually had to be carried out. And so obviously we censured, Rep. Al Green this week. And next week, myself and I believe Brandon Gill from Texas are going to be filing articles to strip him of his committee assignments as well, something that has a little bit more teeth than a censure. But the bottom line is, guys, we have to restore a little bit of decorum on the House floor. None of us have a big deal with, the booing or the, standing up and clapping and the ovations, or even some of the signage, necessarily that it's not allowed on the House floor. We're not trying to be nitpicky here, but you cannot get up and disrupt the president of the United States for several minutes, after you've been given multiple opportunities to knock it off. And, it just went completely in line with what the Democrats were doing that night. Many of them didn't show up. Those that did, as you guys saw from watching the State of the Union, wouldn't get up, whether president was honoring a Gold Star family, whether he was, swearing in an 8-year-old young, boy, who was a cancer survivor into the Secret Service. I mean, it didn't matter who President Trump acknowledged. They wouldn't clap. They wouldn't stand up for anything. And it just goes to show how disconnected they are with the American people.
You are spot on. And, I hope they keep it up, Eli. I really do, because they'll never win another national election ever again. It's just not going to happen. Let me switch over. Let's go to some Second Amendment issues, because you've got a lot going on the floor of the House. And Quang will get you in this conversation right away. But let's start with Trump's EO and how you think Bondi's going to respond to that, because he laid it out pretty clear for her, which I'm going to guess is his attempt to want to roll back after he gets the report from Bondi, all of the gun control measures that Biden put in effect, and we don't have time to go through all of them. But how do you think she'll respond? How do you think Trump will respond? What do you think the end result of this will be? And can Bondi be trusted on Second Amendment issues?
Well, I know that this was one of the chinks in Pam Bondi's armor, one of the concerns that many had, with some of her statements about red flag laws and whatnot. But I do think that the Attorney General will honor the president's executive order. And one thing I like about it is that, and I'm sure Rep. Quang feels the same way, is that President Trump is actually being forward thinking. He's not waiting for something to happen. He's saying, hey, get me a list of everything out there that is infringing upon Americans' Second Amendment rights. I want to report on it so that I can start to take action with the power of the pen, executive orders, and start to get Congress moving in the right direction. And that's one thing I love about this guy. He's only been in office, I think, 6 or 7 weeks, but I got to be honest, it feels like he's been in a couple of years with the pace that he's moving at.
It's truly incredible. Quang, you and I have talked about this before, but I'm going to guess you feel the same way.
Yeah, pretty much. And you and I had a conversation for about an hour and a half yesterday. And by the way, thank you, Representative Crane, for helping us out at the federal level. And I don't know if the representative remember, but when he was elected, you remember when we met at the bar downtown Prescott, and I said to him, and I said, hey, is there any chance at all you can make a national reciprocity a real thing? And I'm sort of like living in a dream right now, because he's there and we have the right president and we're actually working on national reciprocity. So I'm really excited about it. But, I think Ms. Bondi is going to be doing the right thing, and I'm so excited. So excited that I noticed that Americans are being a little bit complacent about the Second Amendment. They're not showing up as strong, and I don't know if Representative Crane notices that, but people aren't going to rallies like they used to in the last couple of years before President Trump got elected, because everyone was worrying about losing the guns. And then with the, executive orders and all the great things happening, people are starting to relax a little bit.
Yeah, it's dangerous and it's scary. Representative Crane, let's go there briefly. Are you sensing complacency? I do want to cover national reciprocity with you. I've got a number of issues, but are you sensing some complacency relative to gun rights issues from the floor of the House? I know there's bipartisan support for a couple bills. We'll talk about those in a minute, but that's a huge concern of mine, and you just heard Quang mention it as well.
I am sensing a sense of complacency to an extent, just because I think, we went from, a regime and an administration that was very anti-gun, and, very, in my opinion, very anti-constitutional rights, for Americans across the board when it comes to this issue. And now we've got President Trump in, and then you look at the people that, some of the people that he's put in law enforcement that would have to carry out some of these laws, Kash Patel, and others. And I think that it leads to a sense of complacency. And I also see that sense of complacency, guys, when it comes to, some of the DOGE issues. Mm-hmm. And there's this kind of idea that, well, hey, Elon and President Trump are going to, take care of all this so we can just sit back and get comfortable.
Yeah, and that's a very scary place to be. And I know, Quang, you feel the same way. Greg, how much time do I have before I go to a break?
Plenty of time, minute 10.
We got a minute and 10 seconds. Okay, let's talk about some of these acts. Let's start with national reciprocity. Quang, you just mentioned that, and I know you're excited about it. Eli, there is bipartisan support there, but is there enough support to move this through both houses of Congress and get this on Trump's desk? Now, he ran on this, he campaigned on it. We all want it to happen. Can you give us your thoughts from your perspective as a representative in the House of Representatives?
Yeah, well, this is the Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act that I co-sponsored last Congress. It was Rep. Hudson's bill. It provides nationwide reciprocity for concealed carry license holders and residents of constitutional carry states. And to be honest with you guys, I've lost so much faith in my colleagues for so many reasons in the House and the Senate. I would actually be surprised if something like that was able to move. I wish I could, sit here and put on, grab some pom-poms and, start cheerleading and, but I'm not willing to do it. I'm going to tell you guys the truth. I'll be surprised if we can get this to move in both chambers.
20.
All right, when we come back from the break, ladies and gentlemen, we'll let Quang respond to that. And then I want to talk a little bit about Kash Patel. I want to talk about the ATF, efforts to abolish it, Hearing Suppression Act, and Eli's work with veterans and their 2A rights right after the break.
following segment of Armed American Radio's Daily Defense is being brought to you by Patriot Mobile. Visit patriotmobile.com/AAR and use the AAR promo code to get free activation today. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, welcome back to the show indeed. New radio stations tuned in Kansas and Missouri. We love you guys. Welcome to the program. Armed American Radio's Daily Defense continues. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom. Let's continue with our guests right now. Let's welcome back Quang Nguyen, Arizona State House Representative and head of the Judiciary Committee there. I'm going to start nicknaming you the Shredder, brother, because that's what you are. I love that. Welcome back, Quang. It's great to have you here, brother. And
Thank you. It's a little bit disappointing to hear what Congressman Crane said about national reciprocity, but I'm still living that dream, right? Fortunately for us, the Republicans, even with a very slim margin of majority, even under Doug Ducey, we passed our own version of PLACA for the state of Arizona. So, we're pretty lucky to have the Republicans sticking together when it comes to the Second Amendment here in the state of Arizona. I'm kind of disappointed that even with majority in the House and the Senate and the President, we still can't push that. So I'm a little perplexed about what's going on there. I can't come up with an answer. Maybe Representative Crane can kind of fill us in a little bit to why that is, and why isn't there a desire to move that along is perplexing to me.
Let's go there. Eli Crane, U.S. Representative, District 2, Arizona, rejoins us. Maybe you can, answer Quang's question. This has been a bill that has been out there in some form for years, for many different Congresses. Thune's bill was out there for a long time. McConnell never brought it to the floor. So what gives with that?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, guys, I think there's a lot of, your Mitch McConnell types, your more moderate Republicans. I know you guys are probably aware there's several Republicans that have supported red flag laws. Mm-hmm. Many of them come from districts that are, moderately or, slightly leaning to the Republican side and have a lot of Democrats in them. And so, I think it's a reflection of the country as well. And I wish it wasn't the case, but that's just the reality of the situation. And I'm not going to gaslight you guys. I'd love to be wrong on that, but I'll be surprised to see, that one move through the House and the Senate. If it does, I'll be the most surprised, but I'll also be very glad as well.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Because time is going to get away from us, I want to get to the ATF with you and Kash Patel at FBI, but you do a lot of work for veterans and protecting veterans' Second Amendment rights. Veterans are being backed in a corner now, Eli. I don't have to tell you that. When it comes to mental health, the Democrats want to strip them of their Second Amendment rights, which is really boxing veterans in, because veterans are afraid to seek assistance because they don't want to lose their gun rights, and you're working feverishly to fix that. Can you tell us about your efforts on that front?
Yeah, so we introduced H.R. 496 in response to Biden's VA unconstitutional restriction of veterans' Second Amendment rights. And basically, this bill just clarifies that any veteran who was reported to the FBI's National Instant Criminal Background Check System, often referred to as NICS, by a VA fiduciary was done so incorrectly and in violation of their constitutional rights. So what happens is if a veteran needs a fiduciary to help them with their finances, they instantly get referred to this FBI NICS list, and therefore it prohibits them from purchasing firearms. And so what we're trying to do is, we had a bill in the House that would stop that last year that I do believe passed, but then we're also trying to take the next step and to make sure that the 270,000 veterans who had their Second Amendment rights infringed upon get those restored. And so that's what we're trying to do with this.
It's despicable. It's as despicable as Green and what he did, the fact that they go after veterans and their rights. Quang, you would agree with that, I believe.
Oh, absolutely. But, here in the state of Arizona, we every time there's a bill to benefit veterans, we are on it, and especially when it comes to the Second Amendment. And occasionally I would ask the question when there's a bill coming up for veterans. Is this going to somehow infringe on the rights of veterans to keep and bear arms or to be able to purchase a new firearm, right? And so those are the kind of questions that I always ask and to make sure that that we're free. With a divided government right now with Governor Hobbs, the only thing we can do collectively is to make sure we kill every single red flag bill, you name it, any kind of banning on magazines or semi-automatic rifles, and those are the kind of things that we need to stick together and kill those bills. And so that's the best we can do. And I hope Mr. Crane can kind of lead us along the way as well in Washington D.C. and getting some of these things killed before they put the boots on our throat.
Yeah, we need shredders all over the place, guys. Eli, let's go to Cash and ATF right now. Now, I've had an opportunity to interview Cash. I've met Cash. I know Cash. I am thrilled that he's at the FBI, and I was really excited to see that he was made the acting director of ATF. I'm just going to ask you this flat out. Can you please help us get rid of the ATF? And what do you think is their future there now?
It'll be interesting, guys. I can't tell you what Cash's thoughts on that are. I'm also glad that Dan Bongino was appointed as the deputy director. I've been a big fan of his for a long time. He tells it like it is. He's got courage. He's got a very extensive background in law enforcement. I know he's very pro Second Amendment, but another bill that I co-sponsored was Rep. Burleson's Abolish the ATF Act. And there were many of us on this as well. So I don't know what direction Cash is going to go with this one. But there are some of us up there that are working on it.
Oh, God, I would love to see that. And I'm just going to give you my personal opinion right now. I've mentioned it publicly on the air a number of times. I think Cash is acting director. I think that may be a sign, at least it's a sign to me, that we may be seeing the very beginning of the end of the ATF. Let's talk briefly about the Hearing Suppression Act. Again, there's bipartisan support for this, from what I understand. My guess is if there were two bills, it were National Reciprocity or Hearing Suppression Act, I think Hearing Suppression Act probably has a better chance. Am I right or wrong on that? And can that move as well?
I think the Hearing Suppression Act would have a much better chance. But I do, I'm not going to hold my breath because I think that, that's the suppressor one, correct?
Yes.
30.
Am I correct on that? Yeah.
You are. Yeah, so we got 30 seconds.
I think a lot of folks look at suppressors as something that assassins use. They don't really think of it from a hunting perspective or even training, children with firearms to get scared of the noise and whatnot. And so, I'd love to see that one move as well, but I work in a pretty pathetic place, guys. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're there, Eli. We're getting ready to go to the bottom of the hour break. I want to thank you for being here. Promise that you're going to come back to the show. We love having you on. I could use a lot of time with you.
20.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. That's Representative Eli Crane, U.S. House of Representatives, District 2, Arizona. Quang Nguyen, Arizona House of Representatives, Chairman of the Judiciary.
10.
Quang, if you would hold on to the line, we'll talk with you in just a second. We'll be right back, guys. Okay, guys, that was a lot of fun having Eli on. Obviously, I wish we had more time with him, but he will be back to the program soon enough. I am going to replay that half hour on Sunday's Monster Cast for a much, much larger audience. with several hundred more radio station affiliates around the nation. We'll play that during likely the second hour of Armed American Radio coming up on Sunday in just a couple of days for you. And Quang is going to stick with us through the break. Paul Markle, student of the gun, is going to join us. We'll have both of those gentlemen. And I want to get some of Quang's responses to what Eli had said as he closed out the segments with us. So stick around. We'll be back in about 3 minutes at 34 after the hour. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Happy Friday.
Powered by Riverside F.
Daniel Defense firearms are guaranteed for life, trusted worldwide, and designed, engineered, and manufactured right here in America. Daniel Defense, freedom, passion, precision.
Yeah, Daniel Defense is freedom, passion, and precision, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Armed American Radio's Daily Defense continues right now. Mark Walters filling your prescription for freedom today and every day here at the Patriot Mobile microphone. 6 Sauer Studios lit up for you. It's all being brought to you by X Insurance. Please go out of your way to visit armedamericanradio.com, and you can find all of our great partners over there in one spot. Support them for supporting our show every day as we continue to grow across the country. We've added a number of new affiliates, and we welcome them all. You know who you are. Welcome to the show, guys. It's a pleasure to have you here. Paul Markle, student of the gun, joins us. Paul, how you doing, my brother?
Oh, I'm living the winter life up here.
Yeah,
winter descended upon us.
I saw that in those photographs, and it was really pretty, but you can have it. So there's that. Quang Ngyuen, Arizona representative, House Judiciary Chairman in Arizona, rejoins us as well. Quang, welcome back to the program, brother.
Well, thank you, sir. It's great to hear from my congressman, and it's just really awesome, but disappointed to see what's going on in D.C.
Yeah, well, I want to get your thoughts on that. And Paul, did you have a chance to listen to the previous conversation, Paul, for just a few minutes?
I did. I came in about 15 minutes ago.
Okay, so you were listening to some of that. Some of it was very discouraging when you're talking to somebody like Representative Crane, who is obviously very plugged in and co-sponsoring a lot of this pro-gun legislation that we want to move through the House and get to Trump's desk, to hear that he's not real confident that that's going to happen. And Quang, you were disappointed when he was talking about national reciprocity. Clearly, he was not real confident in that. He did say that he believes the Hearing Suppression Act is likely stands a better chance of moving. But again, he talked about how it's Hollywooded up, right? How people look at suppressors as quote unquote silencers, and not that the tools they are to suppress the sound of a gunshot and literally protect your hearing. So I just want you to kind of wrap up what you heard from him, and not to mention the fact he's one of the representatives in Arizona.
Yeah, so we're trying to do the same thing in Arizona here with the suppressor as well. A couple of things that we're trying to do with the suppressor is also to allow Arizona to purchase suppressors without having to pay for a tax stamp if the suppressors are made in Arizona. So we're trying to get that, but it's very difficult to have Governor Katie Hobbs, right? Katie Hobbs, a left-wing, far-left Democrat, is very, very difficult to get by. But so we're just buying our time right now to get there when we have, hopefully, a Republican governor in Arizona again. But even under Doug Ducey, we got some really good stuff going on. But, hey, I want to touch on something, though, Mark. Is it okay if I tell you you and Paul a secret? And we'll make sure the other 1.2 million people cover their ears or turn the volume down.
Sure, go for it, brother. It's just between us.
Yeah, it's just between us, right? The three of us. So here's the deal: when President Trump, won re-election, I went ahead and applied for the director of ATF. Now, no one's going to care who I am. No one's going to know who I am. But you know what? I would have a great and a fun time to reform that agency for the amount of time that I spent working on the Second Amendment through the years. I think I would have a great time reforming that agency.
I would have a great time watching you reform the agency. Paul, Representative Crane, you likely heard him talk about the ATF. I can't say that I'm confident in, and you never know what's going to happen in Washington. You heard him close out the show. He pretty much said he works in a really crappy place, that being, of course, the swamp in D.C. But were you somewhat encouraged about what you heard Crane say about the ATF and the efforts to abolish it? There is a movement afoot.
Well, are we not going to start by addressing the most recent? Now, there's been many, but the most recent murders committed by the ATF, we're just going to let that go?
No, we talk about it all the time, but go ahead.
Where are the representatives? Where are the representatives of the people to step up and behave as leaders and say, we cannot allow a government agency to target citizens and to kill them with no just cause? Here's what everyone who carries a gun should know this. You cannot claim justifiable self-defense if you started the fight.
Correct.
If you start a fight with someone and they pull out a knife or a gun or a billy club or whatever, and then you're like, oh, you have a weapon, and you draw your gun and kill them, you can't say, oh, look at me, I'm innocent. He drew a knife on me. You started the problem. If you initiated the problem, if you created it, if there would not have been a problem but for your actions, you go to prison unless you work for the federal government. You can instigate and you can set people up, and then you can kill them and walk away. And that is a problem. And until we address that openly in public on the floor of the House, all this other nonsense about the ATF is immaterial.
Well, I believe that will likely come up if we can get some movement here, because you're right. And I'm glad you brought that up. Quang, I heard your nod of approval there on the mic. Here's the deal. Let's take the airport executive in Arkansas. Let's say that the ATF was there illegally. They could have gone to his place of business. They could have stopped him on his way to work. They chose not to. They chose to invade his home. He responded thinking that he was, in fact, defending his family, and he fired a shot. He can never claim, if he were to have survived that encounter, he would have been arrested for doing so, Paul, is what you're saying, because it was the federal government, even though he truly was, in his mind, defending himself. Now,
if you are on the street and road rage, whatever, if you start the altercation,
it's your
and
fault.
then somebody pulls out a knife or whatever, and then you kill them, you don't get to claim justifiable self-defense. The same thing with the ATF. There was no reason to perform a no-knock Gestapo-like raid. They exceeded their authority. They exceeded the scope of the man. They created a situation in which they could kill an innocent person.
Correct, and he
they
could
walked
never
away.
have claimed justifiable self-defense under those conditions because it was the feds. Quang, I heard your response on that. I know that angers you. Bring it on, FCC friendly.
So amazingly, we have the Castro Doctrine here in Arizona, and recently a Democrat legislator, and I can't remember which one it was. There's so many of them introducing 17 anti-Second Amendment bills, but the bill was about the duty to retreat. Think about it for a second. The title of the bill is Duty to Retreat. What that means is if a burglar knocking on my door at 3 o'clock or trying to break through my door at 3 o'clock in the morning, it is my duty to retreat. I can tell you right now, it would be really embarrassing for the guy knocking on my door at 3 o'clock in the morning, whether it's in uniform or not. It's not going to be a pretty thing. But think about it. They're telling us, gun owners, law-abiding citizens, to retreat when the burglars is coming through your house. I mean, I shredded that sucker in 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
But think about that for a second. We live in a different time, Mark and Paul. We just live in a different time now.
Well, yeah, we do. Or do we, I guess. There's a different way to look at that. Guys, we're getting ready to go to a break. Maybe we'll explore that when we come back. Because I don't know if we live in a different time. I don't know. I'm going to run out of time. So we'll articulate that when we come back. We'll go to Paul with that when we get back from the break. You're listening to the Armed American Radio Network. I am Mark Walters, of course, filling your prescription for freedom today and every day here at the ranch, all brought to you by X Insurance. Please visit all of our partners. You can find them all at armedamericanradio.com. And I'm wearing this really cool Bud's Gun Shop shirt. I got a whole slew of these things. I love them. You can check out our exclusive online retailer there at budsgunshop.com, budsgunshop.com. And all of our great partners, including Heaven's Harvest, Defender Coffee, Emerson Knives, Patriots Relief, North American Arms, Kahr Arms, SIG Sauer, Daniel Defense. They're all over there at armedamericanradio.com. One more segment to go on a Friday for you. We'll be back with Paul and Quang right after this.
This segment of Armed American Radio's Daily Defense is being brought to you by Daniel Defense. Visit DanielDefense.com. Now, back to the show.
All right, guys, final segment before you get your Friday work week over with today. Welcome in. Mark Walters with you today, filling your prescription for freedom. You're on the Armed American Radio Network with us. All brought to you by X Insurance. And we go back to Paul Markle, student of the gun. Paul, welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, and House Judiciary Chairman out in Arizona, Republican, Quang. Quang, welcome back, brother. Always a pleasure. Fun to have you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so you mentioned in the previous segment, we live in different times, and I ran out of time. But I'm sitting here thinking to myself, do we really? Because my right to self-defense is timeless. My right to self-defense has existed since the dawn of time. Politically speaking, I think, is where you were going with that. Yes, we no doubt do, because we've got a political party that wants to not recognize that, as evidenced by the bill that they're trying to move in Arizona to require you to retreat from your own home. And sadly, there are states in the country, Quang, that have that stipulation today, right now as we speak. So thank you for putting your shredder to work over there in Arizona. Because that matters.
Yeah. So it's an ongoing battle, and I'm proud to be a part of it. But it's important to make sure that we continue to fight as a team, and complacency cannot be a part of the new administration.
No, you're right.
And
it's
so
that complacency that kills us. Complacency kills us. Paul, how many times have we talked about complacency killing us?
Oh, we do this constantly, and I would hope that this time we would learn our lesson. We can't just vote for our favorite guy and then check out and expect everything to be okay, because that's certainly not what the other side does. Well, they never admit defeat. Even when they're defeated, they never admit defeat.
No, they look right at the camera at midnight, tell you the sun is shining. They lie right to your face. They're experts at it. So if I had the opportunity to ask Eli, and I wish I did, I didn't get a chance to, but I would have wanted to ask him what his advice is for all of us out there who realize that complacency kills, what he would recommend. And Quang, I'm going to guess that Eli's response would have been to stay in front of our legislators' faces, whether that be personally if we have the opportunity, whether it be by mail, whether it be snail mail, email, phone calls, a combination of the above, and fight for that support. But again, that takes me right back to complacency. A lot of people, I'm getting the sense, feel like they don't have to do that now because, whoa, my guns are safe, Trump's in office. And we heard Eli say it, that he's recognizing it in D.C. That scares me, Quang, but that's still the best advice, right? We want to drive that home?
Yeah, Mark, you and I spent an hour and a half on the phone last night, and we spoke about this.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have we heard of, say, a Republican candidate or somebody who's running for re-election, and they said, I really support the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is what I live for. But at the end of the day, it's just a bullet item. When I ran for office, the Second Amendment was never a bullet item on my platform. And I think you really have to hold your conservative or your Republican candidates' feet to the fire. This is not a bullet item. This is not a talking point. This is life and death. And I experienced it, right? Mm-hmm. I'm the only guy in the legislature right now at the House of Representatives in Arizona who actually lost my freedom, lost my country, having to learn a new language, and being here only to find out what a wonderful thing to have a thing called the Second Amendment. And so I live and I breathe this thing. And I think it's important for Eli to talk to his people and said, hey, guys, we got to take this seriously. The same thing that's happening here in Arizona is you have a whole bunch of Republicans running around claiming to defend the Second Amendment. But when you have a rally, we have 50 Republicans in the House of Representatives,
mm-hmm.
or I'm sorry, in the legislature. Only 4 showed up for the rally. 2 of us came from the same district, Selena Bliss and myself from Legislative District 1. So you have to ask the question, where are you guys when it comes time to get out there and speak to the audience and said, hey, bring your friend, bring your family, bring your dogs, bring your cats. But we got to be getting together to do this. And once again, this is not a talking point. quit using the Second Amendment as a talking point to get elected.
That's great advice.
I'm done.
Paul, you sense his frustration, and you and I have participated in events around the country, sometimes together, sometimes not. But it's always been very disheartening for me to see that we can't get huge crowds on our side in support of our gun rights. And I know that that's going to be worse now. And Quang, you just experienced it just a few days ago in Arizona. And Paul, it should be just the opposite. We should be able to get out there now with majorities in both houses and a president in the White House that supports our gun rights and start screaming for action to get these things done right now. We may have a very short window. I think it's going to be longer than 2 years. The Democrats are making fools of themselves, and they may never win another election again. You're going to have your dopes that are going to vote for some of them individually. But at the federal level, in a national election, they're just crushing themselves. But why can't we do that, Paul? Why can't we get the momentum? We've got the wind behind our back, for crying out loud.
Well, it goes back to the, there's a psychological difference between someone who claims to be a conservative constitutionalist and somebody who is an emotionally driven liberal. Because the emotionally driven liberals can't get up and go about their day knowing that there's a person out there acting and behaving in a way of which they don't approve. They can't live like that.
That's a great point.
We do. We want, it's the opposite. It's this weird conundrum we live in. We want to be left alone. Really, we want to be left alone.
Sure.
I don't want to force people to, I don't want to force people to buy guns. As a matter of fact, I think there's a bunch of people who shouldn't have them, but I think they should make that choice themselves. Not me making it for them. But the opposite side, the enemy, they can't sway you with their rational arguments. They have to bully you. They have to force you. They have to pass laws and restrictions and so forth. It's not enough they can't educate you. So our side has always been the just leave me alone.
Yeah.
I want to live my life. I don't want the federal government to know my name. Matter of fact, I think it's none of their business what my name is. If I get a phone call that says Washington D.C. I'm angry. Like don't call me. You don't have any business knowing my name. Whereas you have the exact opposite. You have people who have to be in everyone else's business.
30.
That's what they want. That's what they desire. They can't live. And so my suggestion is this. I understand that our side wants to be left alone. They want to live their lives. We have to support organizations whose primary function and job it is to campaign for us. And when it comes to the Hearing Protection Act, the American Suppressor Association is relatively new, but they've got some really smart guys at the head, and we need to support them. We need to support them. We need to support. There's a company an organization called FRAC, F-R-A-C. Yep. You may not know of them. Support these organizations because it's their job to basically be your voice.
I got to cut you off there, brother, because we're coming to a close. Paul Markel, student of the gun. Ladies and gentlemen, if I asked him, he would tell you it's SOTGU.com, SOTGU.com. Visit them, please, and support them, and support the organizations he was talking about, and all of the other great gun rights organizations across the country at the federal, at the national level, and at your state level. Quang Nguyen, thank you for being here, brother. You and I will talk before the weekend is over. Quang, always a pleasure, fan favorite for a reason. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. Got another big show for you coming up on Sunday's Monstercast. Until then, I'll see you on the radio Sunday. Okay, guys, thanks for being here today. It was a great program. I would have loved to have had Eli for the hour. We tried. He's got a very tight schedule, but he will be back to the program. As I mentioned, Sunday's broadcast, we're going to replay that half hour. It was chock full of information. and I want to get it out there to a much, much, much larger audience than even the daytime show reach is. So expect that in the second hour of Sunday's broadcast. Armed American Radio's Monstercast will be back on Sunday, and we'll have another good lineup for you. We always do. Great conversation. I want you to enjoy your weekend. Stay safe out there, okay? Remember, carry on, carry often, carry absolutely everywhere. Never, ever, ever leave your cave without your club. No self-respecting caveman would have ever been caught outside his cave without his club. Enjoy your day. Enjoy what's left of your Friday and the rest of your weekend. Stay safe. We'll see you on the radio on Sunday, guys.